You're up.
Okay, it is Tuesday, April 7th. We're going to call the meeting to order at 6:37. Teresa, would you like to call roll?
Yes. Mayor Tiffany Hollis.
Here.
Ryan Green.
Here.
Donnie Barnard.
Here.
Matthew Huggins.
Here.
Kyle Cook.
Here.
Jeff Barr.
Present.
Nicole Shook.
Here. Tonight's invocation will be given by Councilwoman Shook. Everyone would stand.
Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight with gratitude for this community we call home and for the opportunity to serve it. Grant us wisdom in our decisions, clarity in our thinking, and humility in our conversations. Help us to listen with open minds, to speak with respect, and to lead with integrity. Remind us that the work we do here matters, that it affects families, livelihoods, and the future of this city. Guide us to set aside personal interests, outside pressures, and distractions, and stay focused on what is right and good for the whole community. Give us the courage to ask hard questions, the patience to seek understanding, and the strength to stand firm in doing what is right. And in all things, help us to build, not divide, to strengthen, not weaken, to serve, not self-serve. We place this meeting in your hands and ask for your guidance in all we do. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're lost without the Girl Scouts.
I know.
We're lost
Where's our
without the
Girl
Girl Scouts.
Get us going. Okay, we have approval of the agenda. Anyone want to make a motion for that?
I'd like to ask if we could make a change to add or move item 10 to after item 13, and then have an executive session to consider the employment, that one before that item. So have executive session at after item 13, and then item 10 after that one.
So add an executive
Yes,
Yes.
after 13.
yes.
I'm okay if you guys want to move it, but I don't think we need the executive session.
Does anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Donnie Barnard.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
No?
Mayor Hollis.
No.
Kyle Cook.
No.
Jeff Barr.
No.
Nicole Shook.
Yes.
Matthew Huggins.
No.
Motion fails.
Does anyone like to make a motion to approve the agenda as written?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
No.
No.
Do a roll call, so. Motion by Kyle, second by Jeff, to approve the agenda as written. Kyle Cook.
Yes.
Jeff Barr.
Yes.
Nicole Shook.
No.
Matthew Huggins.
Yes.
Donnie Barnard.
No.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Mayor Hollis.
Yes.
Motion passes. Approved as written.
And first up, we have a presentation by Green Chapel Properties. It's a project preview. So I'm not sure how many of you are coming up to do this, but if you want to come up, yeah, Mr. Dunn. The only thing we ask is that we wait until the presentation is completely finished before we have any questions or comments. Let them get through the entire presentation, and then we will open for questions and comments.
Yeah, I guess I'll kick this off. I think I know pretty much everybody here on the council. For those of you that don't know me, my name is David Dunn, and our family owns what we lovingly call Green Chapel Properties. And it consists of about 900 acres. 400 of them are in Monroe Township, just to the south of where we're standing right now. The other half is all down in Jersey Township. But tonight, what we're going to be presenting to the board, to the council, is going to be our plan for the more than 400 acres of our property. And it's a project that we've been working on for probably the better part of 3.5 to 4 years now. And some of the council have already seen this presentation, so if it's a bit repetitive, I think I'll apologize right now, but hopefully we'll be able to work through this. And what we're going to do, I think as Mayor Hall has said, we're just going to go through this presentation, let us get all the information out, and then take questions from council and also from the public. We want to be as transparent as we can with everything we're doing here. And, you know, there are changes coming to Johnstown, so, you know, we want to do something very good for this city and something that we can all be proud of as a family. And, you know, as we're talking about some things that are changing, I'm happy to announce that there are some things that won't be changing. The 100 acres of property to the south of Green Chapel, which is where we have our horse facilities, that whole area there, the main farmhouse, as long as we're alive, that doesn't change. So that's going to continue to be a green space, and it's just going to be our home. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this over to Brian Kinzelman, who is with MKSK, and he's been very instrumental in helping put this whole plan together. I think I'll let him get started, and then we'll take questions after.
Thank you.
Good evening. Again, for the record, I'm Brian Kinzelman, Senior Principal of MKSK. Thank you for your time. We're going to go through this with some pace, but don't hesitate to ask some questions when we get to the end. We'll tell you what we know, and we'll tell you what we don't know.
Okay.
So first off, this is what we're thinking about, a comprehensive plan. It's still at a conceptual level. This isn't a final development plan. This is at a very conceptual level, but it's dealing with, first off, the step forward is from your comprehensive plan, the City of Johnstown's comprehensive plan. And these are a couple exhibits from that comp plan, which suggested when Intel came to land here, we all felt the earth shake, I think, and it's caused the thinking of the planning team to suggest that north and east of Intel would be given over to job creation for obvious reasons with the synergy of that industrial undertaking. And those areas north and east of the existing city be given over to city growth, people, neighborhood, commercial space, residential, civic uses. And then those outlying areas to the northwest, all around the clock to the south would be green space and agricultural land and growth in that regard. So we're following the tenets of that comprehensive plan. And if I could just get this to advance, that would be great. There we go. Secondly, this area, you can see very faintly on this image, the outline, I'm going to point to this monitor, excuse me, the outline of the Green Chapel properties that David made mention of, just over 400 acres that's subject to the conversation tonight. That is contiguous to the city of Johnstown. It isn't some suburban piece that is removed. It is right next door, right behind this building, as a matter of fact. So we understand that by the comp plan that there's an opportunity for some commercial development. If I can get this bloody thing to work. There we go. At, darn it. At Caswell, what the comp plan calls as a, stop. There we go. what the comp plan calls an opportunity node, which is for commercial development, more activity, as opposed to the rank and file of the city and residential properties. You can also see there's some other opportunity nodes in the downtown core. Be it known that this piece of property is just down the street from downtown. We are not out in the burbs. We are a 14-minute walk from the Black Diamond to this spot right here. So we are walking distance, not just driving distance, which is not insignificant. We're looking to expand the city of Johnstown, not replace the city of Johnstown. We're looking to augment downtown commercial development, not to replace downtown commercial development, which is not insignificant. Okay, now we go. So the comprehensive plan future land use suggests that, again, the Green Chapel properties outlined with the black dash line, really three zones within that mapping. One is civic uses. That's the piece of ground directly behind this building that's contiguous to the school campus, an opportunity we feel for a needed expansion of the school over time physically, to move that expansion into what is now Green Chapel properties. Secondly is a planned neighborhood, which is just that, truly planned with commercial, with support facilities, not just houses and apartments and residential properties. It's really a piece of neighborhood, so it's fully functional. And then as we move south from the city into more residential, single-family residential properties. So it goes from more activity, which is logical in American city planning, towards the center of city, down to something that's less active. So here are the, as soon as I get this to work. Touchy. This first piece represents 402 acres and 5 parcels. And you can see it stretches down to Duncan Plains. It touches Mink, a little bit of Caswell, but for the most part contiguous to the northern areas of the city. We're starting with, I don't know why this is doing this, kids. I just keep pushing buttons. As always in my community planning, we start with what Mother Nature dealt us, and that is the beautiful river, these creek corridors, Raccoon and Khyber, the floodway, the waterway itself, the woods that are adjacent to it, the topography of the land. This is not a scrape and build proposition. Whether we're dealing with the topography that was dealt to us. You can see the wood lots as well, some of these contiguous greens, these tree stands that are around water courses and also not. So, and then the rest of this are cultivated fields. The cultivated fields largely is what we use for development. So as I said, the perimeter roads are where we're going to connect to the city. Mink, we've got an opportunity. Obviously, you're looking at this in 2 dimensions. There's a lot of topography here. We've got connection out to Mink, limited connection out to Duncan Plains, and then 1 connection point from Caswell. Caswell and Mink are very, very different streets in terms of character. I'm getting the hang of this, just barely touched the bloody thing. So back to these parcels. We've begun the planning with looking at what is surrounding us. We've got JYAA right next to the school campus, water treatment, wastewater treatment, the Catholic Church next to us, and this property that we're in tonight in the light blue. So as I mentioned before, we're looking to expand upon those areas with an opportunity to give the school campus some room to grow. As population picks up in Johnstown, which it is going to do, we're going to need more school facilities. We've got beautiful athletic facilities here now. lovely schools, we're just going to use more of them. This represents property that is directly adjacent. Secondly, as I mentioned before, start with the open space. Not just the open space that's been delivered to us with the creek corridors, but also, because we're building community, places for new public parks, places for kids to play soccer, passive and active recreation, interconnected trails through these water courses, pedestrian trails, bike trails, dare I say even bridle trails, since we've got a lovely little farm right down the street, and make those connections to the regional system. So that's that mix of those types of open spaces. Pure preservation land, intentional active and passive recreation, the trail system that connects throughout this, connects to the city, connects out to the regional system. And then we've got stormwater management. It's very critical, and it is required by law that we manage our runoff and make sure we're not increasing or decreasing what is leaving this piece of property. So those detention basins, those holding basins will be used as part of the natural system and the recreation system. Next would be the mix of use. Again, dealing with the comprehensive plan and the direction it gave us. These orange areas are places for civic uses, commercial, office, restaurant, residential, any number of residential types. That's kind of the higher density, if you will, of the entire development, which seems logical. It's next to the city, part of the city, it's an extension of the city. It's also next to the school, which is a great opportunity for our future school children to be able to walk across the street, and not take a bus from 2 miles away. Because this school campus will become, over time, in the middle of the city, not on the edge of the city, which it is today. So we're building city around it. What might that look like? Retail properties, upper left, we might have restaurants, neighborhood conveniences of dry cleaners, second-story offices for dentists, orthodontists, accountants, could be bank branch, any number of uses, outdoor dining opportunities, places for people to get out in what I hope is going to be in the springtime soon. Also within that mixed-use area would be attached single-family, townhomes, folks that don't want to leave Johnstown or want to come to Johnstown because of everything it has to offer, but don't want to have to mow 2 acres of lawn, want to be in walking distance to retail and restaurants, and have a high-quality residential property. Third would be multifamily. These could be for sale, they could be for rent, they could be 2-story, 3-story, they might have retail on the ground floor and residential above. Also senior living, thinking about people wanting to come to Johnstown and stay in Johnstown through their entire life cycle, going to senior living, patio homes, into maybe assisted living, maybe even into critical care. So there are steps along the life cycle without leaving the city. And then there's some pure commercial opportunities. As I mentioned, we're contiguous to Mink and visible and accessible off of Mink. Maybe an opportunity for us to have a drugstore, something that's more regional based, places to shop and to bank, pick up dry cleaning. And then lastly, filling in what is largely the cultivated land is the single-family residential. And that is a mix of products. It isn't just big homes. It can be more modest-sized homes, what we call traditional lots. They may have alleys with garages. Think of Clintonville or German Village in the city of Columbus, or many portions of Granville that have this type of housing stock. High-quality architecture, but on smaller lots with walkable streets and friendly neighborhoods. Then the neighborhood lots, what I call more of the conventional housing stock for young families, 2-car garages, 3-car garages, 2-story bedrooms for kids, basements, Again, all in walkable neighborhoods. And also the patio homes, for old guys like me who don't necessarily want to be walking up and down steps or to mow lawns, to have a lot of living space on a single level with garages, maybe a second-story loft for kids or weekend guests coming to visit. But all of those will in fact be sprinkled about. You can see these yellow spaces are really defined by one, perimeter property lines and roadways, but also it's the green space. It's what the floodplain and the floodway and the green space provides for us in terms of developable ground. So all of those uses together, I'll start at the bottom and work to the top. The open space, the green, is 25% of the entire site. So that is a fair amount. That's a lot of open space. That's not just preservation, but that's new parks coming online. Secondly, the blue is expansion of the academic campus. That's right now shown at 16 acres. That may be bigger, that may be smaller, but it is directly adjacent to the existing campus. The single family, again, the cultivated ground is about 40% or 160 acres, and the mixed use, the core and the commercial space is 10% of the overall. The development character is critical. I say that in all seriousness. This is not a subdivision. This is a community. We're creating an expansion of the community of Johnstown. We're approaching this through conservation development principles, which says we're dealing with open space first. We're going to preserve what Mother Nature has given us, and then we develop around it. The street network is more than just about moving automobiles. It's about public domain for bikes, for pedestrians, dare I say, even for bridle trails, if we want to have that wide of a right-of-way. But it is interconnected of all the neighborhoods, not just moving automobiles. Architectural style and materials. This does not want to be a monoculture, but it wants to be of a quality that is consistent with Johnstown. It doesn't want to look like any other community that we can point to around central Ohio. It wants to be specifically Johnstown. But we'll have a kit of parts, architectural standards, development standards, because there will be a number of home builders involved and developers involved in this over time. Everybody's going to be playing from the same song sheet so that we ensure that we have the quality of goods at the end of it all. And then development-wide identity. We're in Johnstown, but when we get into the community of Johnstown, and this will be the newest part, we want people to feel as if they're truly entering the city of Johnstown, not some other suburban residential development. The next steps will be, I'm going to let Jill speak to this as well. We need to go through the planning process. Your code suggests that for planned development zoning, it has to be a minimum of 350 acres. We're just over 400 acres. And we truly want to come in with a planned development so everybody can see exactly what the picture of the long-term vision is going to be. This property is still in the township and needs to be annexed into the city of Johnstown. So annexation and zoning, two separate undertakings, but simultaneous in terms of timing. So we'll be before Planning and Zoning Commission, we'll be before this body over time, and at the end of it all, we'll have an approved development plan, and we'll move forward over time. David can speak to this, but I don't think there's any schedule relative to development. It's what the market dictates, and we'll build this thing over time, over phases. I'm going to go back to this plan because something tells me you want to chat about this. By the by, the gray lines on this plan are what we see as the arterials connecting Mink to Caswell and then connecting down to Duncan Plains, a whole series of local streets and roads and alleys within that. But don't think of this as being 55-mile-an-hour superhighway. This is not. But these are going to be broad corridors that have trail system, vehicular way. Many of them may be boulevarded, but that's the skeleton, if you will, of the whole development. I'm sure I missed something, David.
I think we did a good job.
We'd be happy to entertain any questions. Jill, who is legal counsel, or David, or myself. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Does anybody have any comments or questions? I'm sure we do.
When are you guys hoping to start this project? Not the zoning, but when would you like to break ground?
That's a good question. It kind of works around the annual season. I don't know how long it's going to take to get through all the planning and the zoning and all the administrative work that we have to do, but I couldn't see us starting in November. If it's going to take us all summer to get through that process, we're probably looking at next spring.
How many households do you expect to bring into this area?
I knew that question was coming.
I've got to follow up with it, so.
You know, we've done various planning on how to mix the commercial mixed use, which is a little bit more dense, with some of our lower density product. And to throw numbers out there, it could be anywhere from 800 to 1,200 units, depending on how we kind of put the pieces together. But it's all going to depend, a lot of it's going to depend on the math that we come up with when we're working with Dr. Wagner, with the school district. We need to look at, you know, what kind of demands we're going to be putting on the school system here, how we're going to build into that. We want to do this organically with all of our, basically all of the stakeholders here. So those numbers can change based on what the city council determines is the best course of action. But we can be flexible.
One of my concerns is that currently the city of Johnstown has about 1,200 households, or 1,200 or 1,600. But when you take that and divide it by our general fund, our expenses right now, it's coming out to about $1,200 per household. And the median household in Johnstown is about $90,000. So at a 1% income tax rate, we're bringing in $900, it's costing us $1,200 to service a household. So we're already underwater, and that's part of the reason why we've tried to bring up the tax in the past, is to fix that. What value of homes are you looking at? What median income of family? There's a lot to go into it, because we can't keep building and digging us a hole where we are financially and add more homes that are going to cost more, so.
Well, I think you have two issues here. You've got just the raw number of homes that are coming to the area. There's a certain amount of commercial that's going to be coming into this as well, so that potentially offers a slightly different addition to the tax base than just building a neighborhood. So I think it's going to behoove all of us to get together in a room with our calculators and figure out what the math tells us is the right mix.
And you guys are open to that then?
We're very open.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I have a question regarding the green space that's surrounded by the residential. When we talk in the presentation, it's basically parkland, and I know a lot of people like that. In your vision for this, is that parkland going to be, if the green space, is that going to be deeded over to the city of Johnstown for the city to care for it? Or because it's surrounded by all the residential, and being that this is a new residential area, a lot of those have HOAs and stuff, so is that going to be deeded to the HOA, where citizens maybe in Concord or wherever wouldn't be able to take part in that nice environment that is being built? I guess that's probably the question.
Probably a combination of all of that.
Okay.
I think there are certain areas that are pretty doggone sensitive environmentally, that I don't think we want a lot of feet traipsing through them, so those would be pure preserved. Now, somebody's got to own it, and when a tree falls, maybe you'll leave it.
Take care of it.
But somebody's got to deal with it, right? So I don't know that answer. Now, will there be some internalized green space that's part of the neighborhood where there's a play area and maybe an open field to kick a soccer ball? it probably follows would be under the domain of the HOA, some combination there. There's regional trail systems as well, park systems, so there's various ways of skinning that cat. But we just want to make sure that all the sensitive green space is preserved. That is usable is in fact usable by humankind, so we can bike and walk through. And we need a place for kids and adults to play. We need to provide that play and recreation space. Who owns it? Not quite sure.
Let me expand on that question when we talk about kids playing. Do you envision any of that plus or minus acres in the green where it would be 20 acres plus that is ball diamonds, rectangular field space for lacrosse and soccer? Because when I see the water corridors going through there, that does not, those two don't go together.
Not so well.
Right, so when we talk about play,
That's right.
that's what I think about play with my 12-year-old and his buddies. Play could be defined in many different ways, but I don't see a plus or minus 20 acres out there of rectangular field space for soccer fields or lacrosse fields when we talk about going out there to kick a soccer ball around. Am I fair to say that that probably doesn't exist, that it's more of passive green space than active green space?
I think the green swaths that you see around the stream corridors, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
They get wet.
Yep.
They're meant to get wet.
Right, of course.
Now, there's some of those that could be put into fields that do in fact go underwater from time to time.
That's part, a
fair,
lot of
right?
parks are built on floodplains and
Some of
floodways.
the upland green spaces is fairly flat. That's
Right.
cultivated ground. This has been cultivated ground. Might there, and that's a huge piece of property, by the by.
Right.
Might there be some ball diamonds and pickleball and basketball courts there? May very well. We have not had any, at least I haven't, I won't speak for David, have had any conversations with the JYAA. We've got a lovely facility directly adjacent to us. We have met with Dr. Wagner and talked about that campus, but it seems to me that whole corner of the world, JYAA, Green Chapel, and the school.
Yeah,
needs to
right.
go all together.
From my perspective as one council member, that's something I'm going to want to delve into at great length about what that looks like. Belt Park is plus or minus 28 acres, and I'd say probably a good 12 acres is unusable because of the change in topography and elevation.
That's right.
And it's already, baseball field serves as soccer fields as well too, which is not long-term sustainable. So, yeah, I'm going to want to, now's not the time and place, but just putting it out there as you guys start to put this together and what that may look like.
Agreed. Agreed.
When you look at the vision for the mixed-use development, I travel all around, so I see a lot of different types of mixed-use development. Are you looking at that as strictly commercial space on the bottom and then putting some apartments on the top of those? Or kind of like a mixture of some tightly grouped single-family with the apartments and commercial on the bottom?
Yeah, I don't see it as being a one or the other.
Okay.
The successful mixed-use developments, and gals and guys in my business, and Trevor, you can comment on this, they say mixed use when they don't know what else to say.
Okay.
And in fact, a mixed use, you can go to our downtown, we've got a mix of use there.
We do.
And it's not just horizontal mix of use where houses are behind a commercial strip, but it's vertical mix of use, where I got an apartment or a dentist's office above a restaurant, and everything in between. So from my vantage point, as long as the scale is right, and we're not building these massive, huge edifices, which I don't think are in scale for the city of Johnstown. They might be for suburban Atlanta, but not for Johnstown. But if we can get the right neighborhood commercial that satisfies not just this development, but everybody that is currently in the city for the types of services that we need, dry cleaners, banks, fill in the blanks, all the things we do on Saturday morning, plus places where we can walk and get a bite to eat or a cup of coffee, dentist's office, attorneys, land planners, any number of things. But that whole mix has got to be well-planned and has to have sufficient parking, sufficient visibility, and walkable. It can't be imposing. It has to be walkable, so I can go from this restaurant to a parked car over to the dry cleaners. And right now, all we have is an orange block.
Sure. I guess when I was looking at this, if it was something that you guys had thought of, Mr. Dunn, this is a question for you included, is did you look at anywhere else in Central Ohio that has a newer, modern, mixed-use new build? And I think a couple of people have heard me bring this up. One of the ones I'm very, very familiar with, because they're actually a client in my professional world, is Evans Farms up in Lewis Center. And I don't know if you guys are both familiar with that. So when I think mixed-use development, that's what I think of. And I encourage the public to go look at that mixed-use development because it's actually quite nice. It really is.
It is.
And it kind of, when it was first being built, was out in the middle of a field. But it's filling in fast up there. So I didn't know if that was kind of like your model, what you were looking at for
It is,
that.
And you make mention of that project, and I don't want to cause any of us to be thinking that we're gonna go look at X, Y, or Z.
Sure.
And I'm not suggesting that you're suggesting that, but
No.
that is of a nice scale. It's got beautiful architecture. It isn't necessarily outrageously expensive architecture, but it's very tidy, nice, clean architecture. It's got very walkable streets. It's got some curbside parking. So lazy guys like me can park my car and jump in and get a cup of coffee on my way to the office, as opposed to searching for a parking lot. If you're gonna be there for 3 hours and go to a restaurant, there is a parking lot. We've got it in New Albany as well, in the center of New Albany. Powell, Dublin, Granville, that's authentic mix of use in Granville, Ohio. So I think yes to all of that. And I'm anxious to get started on figuring out that puzzle of what that downtown looks like.
And I just have one more question, and I'll shut up for the rest of council to ask. Do you already, in this planning stage, have developers in Central Ohio, local to Central Ohio, that are ready and waiting for, quote-unquote, an approval for this to get off the ground? They're like, hey, we're interested in building, we're ready to come in.
We have several
Okay.
that have been waiting now for several years. And the last time I had lunch with one of them down in Houston, we left very cordially, and I just basically said, I'll give you a call when we're ready. And so they're waiting, and just being very patient at this point.
Sure. Thank you for answering my questions.
To piggyback off of what Matt said, so you could look at it today and say 800 to 1,200 residential units. But as far as mixed-use, commercial units, office-type things, retail, all the above, you couldn't put like an exact amount of units on that?
No, sir.
Okay.
Just can't. I do know this, that we've got what I think is a very lovely downtown district here. And whatever we do here cannot be sucking energy from that. And if done right, it doesn't. And we've got examples of that around this region.
How do you do that?
Be very careful as to how you tenant it, the types of developers that you invite into it. How do you protect the moms and pops? I think is the crux of the issue. I look at.
In the history, I mean, you don't want to make it a ghost town down there where everybody wants to come to the new area, so how?
That's right.
I think I'm really interested in how you protect that downtown.
One is connectivity. Again, I'm a 14-minute walk from here to downtown, 14-minute walk. I walk further than I go to my drugstore in my neighborhood to pick up a prescription on Saturday mornings. So roadway connectivity, so that if I go to Black Diamond and there's a line out the door, I pray to God there is a line out the door, that I can jump right back in my car and I can be here in 2 minutes or 3 minutes. I can ride my bike and get an ice cream cone here. Moms and pops, Darius, I'll call them the local business gals and guys, got to be encouraged to maybe participate in this development, and that gets backfed with something else. It has to, we have to be careful with the scale of this so it doesn't overshadow that. Connectivity is going to be important. Making an offering here that might not exist elsewhere in Johnstown as well. So inviting those folks as part of that conversation would be welcome. I look at the city of Dublin, and everybody thought when Bridge Park came along that it was going to suck the life out of the historic downtown Dublin. Did just the opposite. They built a $17 million bridge to get from here to there. But that isn't where all the retail traffic is happening. So we build quality here, it's going to up quality there and vice versa.
Do you have more questions?
That's all I have.
Does staff have any questions? Anyone?
Look forward to working with you.
So what happens here, and that's my question. This is a informal presentation, but at some point it becomes formal, if you will, which is the request to annex. So
Where do you want to chat for that?
I was going to say somebody from your team.
She's much smarter.
Good evening, I'm Jill Tangeman with 4 Sanderson One Ps, 52 State Street. I think in terms of process, yes, the next step would be starting with annexation. I think, and we had talked with your council, it's been a while now, but many months ago, about starting the process with a pre-annexation agreement so that we all get on sort of the same page. That doesn't bind you to any particular zoning or anything like that. Typically, it has some language that says the staff is supportive of moving forward with some conceptual plan that we'll continue to flush out. But we usually start the process with that so that you have a chance before we file an annexation and you're required to react, that we sort of have a baseline of an agreement that we are going to annex, and this is what we're looking, we're all kind of moving forward to that. Again, can't bind a council to a future vote in the agreement, but it's really meant as sort of a framework for, starting the process and kind of knowing how we're all moving forward. So that's what we would recommend. That would ultimately come to you for, the agreement would ultimately come to you for a formal vote. So you'll have plenty of opportunity to vet that before it got there.
I see some of my friends and former classmates in the crowd that are neighbors to this property, and I think Dr. Wagner's here on behalf of the school, and Mr. Benton. I know you've had discussions with them. Their thoughts, concerns, I don't know if we want to.
Yeah, if there is anyone where.
Or I'm assuming that you've had discussion with them from your perspective of how they feel about it. They certainly could speak for themselves, but.
Sure, we'll be happy to turn over the podium, but I think we've had lots of very productive conversations with the school district and Dr. Wagner, and I believe we're moving forward in a cooperative manner, but certainly happy to let them answer themselves. There obviously are a lot. I mean, this is a large project.
Sure.
And I think Brian put it best when he said, this is going to be a long build out, and it's going to take time. And there's a lot of details to work out. And some of those are not only the details of the development and the standards and landscaping and architecture and all those things that go with it, but there's also a financial component here that we all need to make sure, because the last thing we want is a project that is not successful and viable in the long run. So I think, back to your point, there needs to be a lot of discussions. And that can be, again, that can be a roadmap that we build into the pre-annexation agreement that talks about the donation to the schools, that talks about what economic development tools that we might use, maybe it's new community authority or other types of things, that make sure that we're building a development that is economically viable for the city ultimately. And so I think a lot of those things can get fleshed out in that agreement. answer all of the questions.
Understood.
Because there's still gonna be more that come, as we go through all of this. But I do think the value in going through the process on the pre-annexation agreement is putting a roadmap together so that we all know this is the process, these are the pieces that all need to go in, and some of that will involve the schools.
Last question I have is that, we talk about over time, you guys have experience in this, but for the sake of my knowledge and those in the crowd, when we talk about, is this over 5 years? Is it 5 to 10 years? Is it more like 10 to 20 years? And I'm not looking for the days and weeks, but approximately, a full build-out would be envisioned in what kind of time frame? Plus or minus 5 years?
That's what I was gonna say, that Brian and I are trying to look at each other to get a number. My guess is 10.
10, right.
That's
Plus or
my guess.
minus.
Right,
Understood.
Plus or minus,
Yeah.
but all things being equal as of today, I would say 10.
Okay, thank you.
With the acceptance, if council decides of annexation, obviously, the city has to agree to supply utilities, water, sewer. Do you have, and our plants right now are going through upgrades, which is a good thing, they're needed, our plants are older. But do you have any thoughts at all on consumption over that 5 to 10 year build out? What this development will need so the city can plan towards further expansion if necessary, or what we have
just
will work?
recently started the engineers, and there's a lot of engineering behind that plan, behind it, in looking at that. Not only that, we're dealing with the survey of exactly where these properties are, topography, wetlands, understanding the lay of the land, as it were, but then where are those utility corridors? What are they plugging into?
Yeah.
Water and sewer. What are those capacity needs? And then what do you have in these plants, and what are you planning on putting in these plants? That's all a conversation that lays in
Still
front
in
of
the
us.
future, okay.
And then there's something else that you have to keep in mind as well. Assuming we develop this land, well, the land just to the east of us will eventually get developed as well. So I think we might want to all get together and start thinking about how development goes 15 or 20 years down the road, beyond us, when we do that planning.
But we do have engineers engaged, and, we are aware that there's utility planning, there's traffic planning, all of those things that need to happen as we build this plan, and even as we start down the path of a pre-annexation agreement, understanding how those pieces plug into this are going to be incredibly important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone from the public have a question or comment? Okay, come on. You can come up to the microphone so everybody can hear you.
I guess I have a question from council because I don't know how it works, and then I have comment. Would an agreement be made to annexation before you knew the exact plan of how many homes and such?
No.
No.
No, so that would be cemented before you would make that decision. Okay, and just a reminder, Caswell Road, the farms on Caswell Road are still suffering from the water runoff of Concord Crossing. So, that is our biggest concern. It isn't that we're against development, and I can speak for only one household, but there has to be a better plan than what's on Concord Road. And now that we're a city, we have to abide by the MS4 program. So there have to be water runoff studies prior to any development. And council is legally obligated to abide by those. So just a reminder to council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Kessler, take that next.
Donnie, did you want to go? Just so everybody can hear you. Make it official.
Make it official.
Yeah.
So,
Just use mic.
all right. I'll proactively ask Mayor Hall some, I probably have 3 or 4 questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. First of all, I want to pick up where Chris was asking, because I saw Mr. Kinselman nodding his head. So do you want to formally respond to that?
Stormwater management?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, but by law, we've got to address the runoff from these fields. I have no idea what has happened in the past. I do know there have been some bad things happening with stormwater worldwide in the past, but we'll be designing stormwater management, that's quality and quantity of stormwater, so that what we send downstream doesn't have a whole bunch of stuff in it. We can't increase that runoff or decrease that runoff. So each of these pods of development will have stormwater basins, dry basins, wet basins, ponds, so that we hold that stormwater and release it in a controlled fashion. That is part and parcel of the storm drainage system, the pipes and catch basins and manholes. It's all part of the program. It's baked in, as it were.
Just because I'm not familiar with it, is that applicable during construction as well?
Yes.
So during the construction process?
There's going to
Okay.
be siltation and runoff prevention, so that we're not sending muddy water down into Ms. Amendier's site. But, and then post-construction, long-term, for the duration of the development, we've got to make sure we control that stormwater.
And for example, Ms. Hollis, if you look right around the building, the orange that they're putting up is for that exact purpose, is to keep.
Silt fencing.
The silt fencing to keep the drainage from.
Next, John.
So my sense is, by doing that, you mitigate the green from getting bigger and wider.
That's right, unless you want to make it wider, if you intentionally want to make it wider for sake of adding a water body, that's right.
Okay. Then I'll pick up where Councilman Huggins and Barnhart, they were asking questions about, not the tyranny of or, but the power band. How can you have something like this and preserve the downtown area? And my sense is that MKSK is being one of the premier urban designers and planners in all of Ohio. This isn't your first rodeo. So I would ask if you could share maybe an example of another community that's much like Johnstown, maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, that you were putting together plans like this, but you also worked with the city council to preserve their culture and their character in their downtown area. Give me some examples of that.
Mr. Kessler assumes I've been doing this for 40 years, but I'll go ahead and answer that. I jumped to Powell, Ohio. I'll go to Dublin, Ohio. When I was a kid driving through there to go fishing with my dad, it was 1,000 people. It's now north of 40,000 people. So it's that was monumental growth in Dublin. I think we're going to experience something that is similar, not quite as robust as that. I hope it's not quite as robust as that. But Powell, Ohio was a crossroads and had some antique shops and sundries shop. And now drive to Powell, Ohio, and there's restaurants and there's residential development directly adjacent. The people are walking to those restaurants. They too have put on population, 25, 30,000 people probably. So it goes from a crossroads farming community to a legitimate mid-sized city. We're working on Plain City, which looks a heck of a lot like Johnstown on the other side of Franklin County. And it is experiencing some tremendous development growth with the same issues of water and sewer and stormwater management. But as long as it is planned and is anticipated, you can put the right things in the right place and make sure the roadways work, utilities work, and that we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul relative to commercial viability. So it just needs to be intentional. There's no magic formula. You just have to be intentional, and you need to be thoughtful. That's why these things take 20 years to do.
This is, I'm not going to say how I feel one way or the other in this, but what do you say to the residents? Because there's an old Johnstown and a new Johnstown. There's definitely a divide there. And there's a huge segment of the population of, not just in Johnstown, but the area that surrounds Johnstown, that doesn't want to see Johnstown grow. And this scares them. This is us becoming Dublin or New Albany. And while those are beautiful places that we all like to go eat, shop, stuff like that, for a core percentage of population, they don't want that. So what do you say to those residents that we can say to the residents that things are not going to necessarily change, but it is changing?
Right.
I think there's a fear.
This isn't not the first time I've heard that. And this isn't the first community that has dare I say, the old guard like me, who's been here for a couple of generations, not wanting to necessarily see things change. Things are changing, period, end of story. Central Ohio is one of the fastest growing areas in the country. And what Johnstown has to offer, like Granville, like Plain City, like Urban Crest, are these one step outside suburbia that have this quality of life. Great schools, beautiful streets, lovely neighborhoods, green space, agriculture. They don't want that to change. It's going to change. That is what is drawing people in. Now, how do you accommodate all those folks that come in? You do it in a planned district like that, so that I've got places for those folks that are relocating from Worthington. They want to get out in the country. Well, the country's changing. The population nationwide is expanding almost geometrically. We just have to make sure we preserve the open space, we preserve the agricultural integrity of the place. You'll see in the comprehensive plan that it suggested everything to the north, coming around the northeast and down Caswell, all remains agricultural. So we need to make sure we put the housing, put the bodies, put the population in places that we can service them and they don't destroy the character of the place. The architecture, the space, the placemaking that we make on this development, if we do it right, and we're going to do it right, it needs to add to the character of this place, not obliterate the character of the place. So that's all I can say, because I'm one of those old guard that certain aspects say I don't want to change anything in my neighborhood, but my neighborhood's changing. So how do I control it? Intentionally, thoughtfully.
Let me ask this succinctly for people who don't think as abundantly as you guys. So what's the number one, what's the key enabler to this? And what's the number one barrier to this?
That's great.
The enabler? Oh, my.
Annexation.
I think there's some of the mechanics of development, community development, sewer, water, storm drainage, roadways, finances. How the heck do we afford this? How do we build this? The last thing in the world any builder or developer wants to do is have a suffering development. So it's in the best interest of the developer for this thing to thrive, which is in the best interest of the city. That aside, I think the quality of the place, and it isn't just this 402 acres, it's this 402 acres added to the rest of this city. What is the quality of the place? It's walkable streets, it's neighborhoods, it's great schools, it's great athletic facilities, Friday night football, it's a downtown core with some restaurants, it's new restaurant offerings. We're gonna have more bodies here, so we're gonna need more restaurants, we're gonna need another dry cleaners, we're gonna need fill in the blank. So it's building that community that draws people to it. I mean, think about any of our neighborhoods, wherever you live, it's about that sense of community, having neighbors, walkable, bikeable, and I don't have to drive to Worthington to get a quart of milk. I can get it right here. So it's building community at every turn. Architectural quality, placemaking.
What's the biggest barrier?
Well, don't read the news today, but I think it's largely financial, if not almost exclusively financial. How do we afford to build this? And then once we build it, how do we afford to maintain it over time? So it all comes down to, in this capitalist society, how we afford to build things and maintain it. So if we get the right developments, the right folks, the right businesses, the right builders, and we attract the right, as they say, purses and wallets into the community that can afford to finance it, we'll be fine. He says.
And my last question, I warned you,
No, it's great. It's great. That was a great question.
probably to Dr. Wagner. My sense is, and these are untested assumptions, and probably I'm going to say something erroneous, but it seems like we've got a lot of revenue coming in the school district. No? It feels like it. Anyway, my question is going to be, you can provide clarity. So my sense is, we're going to have a lot of revenue coming in from all the businesses that are in the business park out in Millville. But as we grow with housing and things like that, and we need more facilities in the schools, I've forgotten more about the school district than I can remember, but you can't use operating money to build new facilities, is that correct?
No, it's not correct.
That's not correct?
You can.
So why don't you just come up and provide clarity, I guess. What I'm asking is, what would the school's strategy be to facilitate and enable all this growth? Because it's obviously going to be a burden on the school at some point in time, so how are we going to enable that?
Okay. What question do you want me to start with first? Or you want me to start with first financials with the school district? One of the things with, and I didn't prep remarks tonight, so this is impromptu, but I'll do this off the top of my head. One of the things that is kind of a myth is that we have all this money coming in from this commercial development. That's not here yet. It should be once there is payroll tax coming in. But, you know, because of the way the abatements are set up, we get a little bit of money because of, you know, real estate transfers and all too. But there are things like I can tell you with Intel, we were just looking at this today, we have an exemption of over $24 million on that property that we don't see that. You know, that extends beyond, those things were negotiated beyond the school district. So that's a lot of property that we're not going to see any kind of money of. Now, eventually, there should be payroll behind that, and that's the compensation model we have, much like the model that we have with the city of Johnstown, which eventually, when there's growth. So I think that's one question, Rich.
Back there.
Oh, you're back. Set me up. It's impromptu. From a growth standpoint, and this is the thing, I will tell you, I think I can speak on behalf of the school board, it does not incentivize the school district to grow. You know, like we're just over 1,600 students, we've lost some students because of homes that have been demolished in the school district, but if we become twice that size, there's no advantage to us. But our role and responsibility is to be reactive to the community. So if there needs to be more rooftops, which I understand why that needs to be, you know, for housing, for other factors, and I understand that, then we will respond accordingly. We have a plan in the school district, and I know I've reviewed this with most of council, that we can nearly triple the size of the school district enrollment. And to do that, we would need a new high school, we need a new elementary school, and then we have to reconfigure the whole school district. That would be about $100 million in capital expenses to do those, to the high school and elementary. The Board of Education is very conservative, and we have a little bit of that construction money available, but nowhere near anything like that, so we would have to put a plan together. Mr. Barr, when you asked about, or the discussion was, I think Mayor Howell said it too, about pre-annexation agreement, like we want to have some discussions. I've been open with the Dunn family. 16 acres is wonderful, but it's not enough.
Right.
In order to put a campus together, we would probably need closer to about 30 acres. Some of it depends on the buildability, and I've talked to Mr. Kinzelman about this. Like if you see the blue area right there, when they showed this to me, you have the stream through there. I need to understand jurisdictional aspects of that. We need to know, you know, there's some things that we said when he had a few minutes, he'd look at that. I think a part of that needs to be, and we had discussion about Parks and Rec as well too, like just conceptually when I first saw this, I thought you even kind of invert some of those, you know, the green for the blue, because you may be able to put some, that's a 100-year floodplain, I don't know what's there, we'll have to look into that. But, you know, maybe some opportunities, but we need more land than that. But I do think Parks and Rec would be a part of that, and we talked about that conceptually. I think it was about 5 acres or so that we could get some of that flat land and all too. So, is there anything else I can answer for the council?
Thank you.
Anything else? I will really tell you, and I've not had a recent conversation with the school board about this, but I do agree with the pre-annexation, I should say, pre-annexation agreement. I do think that would be a very good discussion to start laying out all these things. And I know you said you'd get back to us at some point, but we want to talk about viability of some of this. From a growth standpoint, Mr. Bernard asked this question, our residential housing, whether it's a single-family home or apartments, typically have generated about 0.8 to 1.2 students per household. That data needs to be updated because things have changed, and you know, like we're watching Leafy Dell with that, I think it's 72 to 74 unit apartment complex coming in there at some point. It seems like that's been in process for some time. So we have some modeling that we'll need to know a lot more than this. I'm not sure if we're still calling it the Gateway Project, but what we did with, recently in that other area, which I think was a minimum of about 1,200
1,200, yeah.
units. You remember that? One of the things we requested with the planners on that was to talk about how many students would be generated.
Phasing
I'm
it.
doing it off the top of my head, but of those possible 1,200 units at that time, I think it was like 60 to 70 students, and it was because of the way the units were constructed. They were,
Yep. Smaller.
Yeah, well, they were targeted, typically
Young
professionals,
professionals,
55 and
yeah.
older. I mean, there's not going to be dictating that. If I recall, about 5% of them were 3 bedrooms. There wasn't really that, there wasn't going to be that many families generating out there. So those are the kind of things we'll need as a school district to know what's the projection, and then we can factor that into the model. And again, we have that built out.
And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but as far as phasing, if your ideal situation for phasing what 800 to 1,200 units, what would be ideal for the school phasing? Would it be in 200 unit increments? Would that be?
Well, first I'll say just planning in general is great.
Right.
Like that's going to be so we put that together. But what Mr. Barnhart asked is an important question and he asked about the price points for units. Generally, like when you think about a school district and we have potentially 13 years we're educating students, if you have a more affordable product, whatever that would be, you sometimes have to pull students through 13 years. That affects your school district, facility needs. Johnstown, as it currently sits right now, my impression, I don't really have any data behind this, but because values have gone up so much because of all the potential development in the area, it seems as though we're getting more like second home families now too. So we're starting to load a little bit more on, like, I would say middle school, high school, and that's
The
what you
older,
sometimes
yeah.
see. More affordability pulls through 13 years. Less affordability, more expensive homes is going to typically load on the back end of that, so you may be middle school on that. So that would affect your school district, in terms of capital needs or building needs you're going to have.
I know you have a great model for growth based on enrollment numbers. I was just curious how many, and I know that's across the districts, it's a tricky question, but when we're looking at this, because we still do have that other 1,200 units too, that we have to make sure that we balance everything, so, and obviously we want to do it congruently with the school and make sure that we're growing accordingly.
That project, again, was 60 or 70 students.
Yeah.
My concern there is we all work together on this,
Yeah.
is what is that doing for water and sewer? What does that do for first responders, roads, all those other things, because we're a part of that as well, too.
Yeah, I agree. Does anyone else have any questions for Dr. Wagner? Good? You're off the hook. Are there any more questions or comments from the public? Anyone? Sure. If we could email it to, is that okay?
It's
Public.
public domain,
If you want to send an email to any of us or to Teresa, then she can email you the document. Thank you. Okay, yeah. Yeah.
So how many different price points will there be, and where would they be at? And how many of them of each? Do you have any guess?
Don't have a guess, but I think it will be a full range of price points. I don't think we want to exclude anybody from school in Johnstown. So I think it could be starter homes, it could be workforce level housing, as we hear. Some of the traditional home sites, the larger conventional home sites, there's places on this piece of ground, I think there's a market for larger, very expensive estate lots. People are gonna wanna build $1.5 million home, $2 million home. You don't have to stretch too far to spend $1.5 million on a home these days. But the moral of the story is, I think as the adage goes, the market speaks. And what draws people to a place like this is going to be the quality of these schools, the sense of community we have here, and the improved sense of community that we build here. That's going to cause people to come in, all price points. Big homes, little homes. What's that mix? No idea.
And there's even some apartments as well.
And some apartments as well.
Do you have any idea how you're gonna place each price point?
No, I got some ideas relative to the topography and the water courses where you're not going to have big expansive neighborhoods. You're going to have more smaller enclaves, but really don't. I mean, I think around that mixed-use core, there might be some patio homes, places for folks of my generation that can walk to restaurants and don't have to get in a car and drive or go get some sundries. And then maybe more traditional home sites that are out in the developable ground, a little bit further south. But don't know. Again, as David suggested, he's had conversations with some developers. We're blessed in Central Ohio to have some of the best home builders on the planet in Central Ohio. And we haven't even broached that point yet. But I think they will come calling him, wanting to see this plan as it moves forward. Thank you.
To follow up on Eric's question, I'm assuming you would probably take into consideration the existing homes around there would be part of your planning, not just the topography, but what exists with,
That's right.
right?
That's right. And these edges are particularly important to us where we're up against someone's property. Right now, it might be cultivated fields. Is it going to be cultivated fields in the future? Don't know that. So we're going to have to be very sensitive and talk to these property owners as we start to plan that neighboring development.
Yeah.
And we can do a lot of work with landscaping to soften the edges around.
Sure.
That's right.
The perimeter as well.
Go ahead. If you had your preference, what would be phase one? Where would you start?
It'll be the top 200 acres.
I could be up here. I could be next to the
Just
blue and the
stuff right
green.
behind the building here.
I think that's the shorter part. We're tying into roadways that already exist, making a connection. The sewer and water runs are a little bit lesser, so it makes some sense to start where we've got the utilities, and then work that way. And I think that helps to, dare I say, put a stake in the ground, and we can demonstrate visually the quality of the place in that mixed-use development, what some of the commercial spaces look like, some of the residential spaces, and really set the tone for the signature of the place, the community.
So that being said, the land for the school and the green portion would come in, say, the first phase also?
Yeah. and
That
that's
would-
right. I've only had a conversation or two with Dr. Wagner on exactly what the school system needs long-term in that campus. We want to be as accommodating as possible.
And then there might be some other ways to reconfigure some of the stuff up around the school to better use some of those ball fields and how that sort of integrates with our property so that they
Yeah.
can kind of spill over the property line if they need to.
I just think it's important to point out that would be like a year one, not a year 10
That would
piece
come
of the
into
puzzle.
yeah,
Okay,
right up front.
Okay.
This is our first conversation with y'all, not our last.
right.
For sure.
I have a question about your, the apartments. I know you don't know how many's coming or, you know, exactly where they're going to be, but I know in our first PD district out there in the Gateway, we did, I do believe, and I could be wrong, we put an occupancy rate on those, which was like a one-bedroom had 2 people, 2-bedroom had no more than 4 people. Would you be willing to discuss that as well?
Sure.
Okay. You open to that occupancy rate, basically saying we don't want 15 people in an apartment?
No, and we're gonna have pretty high standards.
Yeah, I believe, I don't doubt you at all, but I just want to talk about those occupancy rates.
Ms. Shook, that's actually already covered under Ohio law, occupancy standards per bedroom. So you can only have 2 in a bedroom
Just making sure it's
with
enforced.
one. Well, it's already part of the code.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Does anyone else have anything? Anyone in the public, anything else? Thank you so much.
We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For giving us the time this evening.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming in,
Thank you.
all the way from Texas. You want to take a 5-minute recess, just to let everyone?
Approved.
There you go.
You guys good?
Yep.
Next on the agenda is citizen comments on matters not on the agenda. Did you get any speaker slips?
I did get one. Mark Van Buren.
There's gotta be this stuff right behind this one.
Want to speak now?
Yes. You got 3 minutes, and is the timer working? Yep, good.
Just shut off the microphone.
And no, it shocks you.
Yeah. My name's Mark Van Buren. I'm a candidate for Licking County Commissioner coming up in May. Just want to introduce myself. But I do find it interesting, the exact conversation you had tonight, I've heard it in Pataskla, heard it in Etna, throughout Licking County. Just give you a little background myself. I started out as a village council member in Kirkersville, and then I've been a township trustee for over 24 years in Harrison Township. In 2008, I was appointed as a county commissioner. Got beat, I'll be honest, went back as a township trustee. We have a farm family, my brother, my wife and I, called Van Buren Acres down in Kirkersville, where it's really interesting to watch the kids when we talk about school kids. How many of them come to the farm, they don't understand where their food comes from, and that's where it is. Some of the different committees I've been on, and you can go to my website, citizensforvanburen.com, and it'll have everything I've done over the last almost 30 years here in Licking County. I'm on the West Licking Joint Fire District Board, and probably the board that really ties to Johnstown. I'm on the Transportation Improvement District. And it's really interesting the challenges that you face and the amount of money we were able to funnel from the state to help you, for instance, on Route 37 and 62, and some of the developments that's coming on the west of town and the pressures you're going to see. I don't want to take a lot of time. I'm a big believer in local government. And the conversation you had tonight with the residents, be able to ask questions and get involved, I encourage that everywhere I go. And with that, I'm going to quit a little early. If you have any questions, you can look at me on Facebook, my website. I can give you my phone number if you really want it. It's 740-404-8656.
Brave man.
And anybody can call me. I don't care if you call me 2 in the morning, I may answer. And if you want to meet with me anytime, I'm happy to come up here. I was here for a meeting with the mayor a few weeks ago. I was telling her, I remember as a kid stopping in this building and buying donuts. When I was in FFA, and we'd come through Johnstown to go to different contests. I graduated from Watkins Memorial High School. I have a business degree from Ohio State University, and I have an MBA in finance from Mount Vernon Nazarene University. Any questions? I know you have a busy.
What kind of donut did you get?
I tell you what they had. The Long John ones.
Yeah, I know.
And they had vanilla ice in them.
That's what he's talking about.
You guys laugh, but they were the best donuts.
No, we laugh because we know. Yeah.
Any other important questions?
No, that's the only one I could think of.
Visit the Troyers here, you can get them still, Long Johns.
See, I remember when you had Sub City
Yep.
and Plaza Pizza. And when I'm done, on the fair board, we have no place to eat except those 2 places.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Good luck. Okay, good luck. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is council committee reports. Design Review Board met, they did not meet on March 24th. Next meeting is April 14th at 5:30 in council chambers. Planning and zoning met on March 25th. Next meeting is April 14th at 6:30. Kyle, do you have an update on that?
Yeah, we unfortunately had to take the mural off the table. They didn't show up again, so.
That's for El Rey?
So if they would like it, they'll have to reapply, unfortunately. We did 2 lot splits, one for the city and one for the Granville Milling Company, so that they could, fulfill their drive-through. And then we did get light manufacturing pushed up to council. Teresa, I thought that might be on this agenda. Was that?
There's some requirements for, can't send it like less than 20 days.
Okay.
So it'll be on next agenda.
I figured it was something like that. Cool, and that's it.
Okay, Safety and Service met tonight. Next meeting is May 6th. Ryan?
Yep, we discussed key fobs and entry into the building and how that's currently working with our staff and council members and the school board. We had an update on our damaged well. We discussed further road repairs and future planning for those, and our strategy, and briefly discussed the DORA, which we will talk about in other business as well. And that was it.
Facilities Committee will be scheduled as needed. Does anyone from Facilities Committee have any updates? Anything? Or comments?
We're still continuing to work with the American Legion on their amendment to their lease. We hope to have a final so that they can, that's palatable for both, and continue to house them there and kind of work with the plans that they want to do, so
Yeah,
hopefully.
at this point, it's in their court.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've got it, we're waiting on them.
Okay.
We've done our due diligence and good work.
One question that I have to piggyback off of that, for business from our last meeting, Dave, have we started work on the CIC yet?
Yes.
Okay,
Actually, Frost Brands actually submitted that.
okay.
Thanks, Dave.
Did they give any kind of timeline, Dave? Did they give any kind of timeline on how long that would take to get that?
Emmett, Kelly was working on it.
Okay.
So I'll reach out again this week.
Okay.
He said a week or so to have it, so.
Okay. Rules Committee meets as needed. Matt, did you have anything?
We haven't scheduled any type of rules meeting since the last one. We haven't even put in a chair at this point,
Okay.
so I have put myself up for chair, so we probably should schedule one, at least to make a formality of addressing a chair. And anything else anybody else wants to talk about with rules.
You want to do that right now?
We can.
I can't even, who else is on rules?
Donnie and Ryan.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
I think we could probably keep it relatively short.
Do we want to do it, so our meeting the 21st, we have a work session?
Mhm.
We have a work session that day. Is there finance also?
There will be finance that day.
Okay, so that's a full meeting. That's a
What do you
full
need,
day.
maybe 10 minutes?
I don't really think, I mean, unless somebody has something they really desperately need to bring up the rules committee, they believe is a huge violation or a change of the rules, it needs ultimate discussion.
Is there anything that would keep you guys from just voting on it right now?
I don't think so.
We'd have to call a meeting to order.
Yeah.
Oh, you, okay.
We would have to,
Can we, I mean,
we'd have to advertise 24 hours and call a meeting to order.
do we just want to schedule one for like May or June and just do it then and knock it out then? We could look at like half the year and say this is what's been going on.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So we have May 6th.
Yeah, we can do it May
That's fine.
6th. It's a Wednesday. That good for you, Donnie?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're moving,
Council's that night. so-
yeah, council's that night because of the election.
Oh, yes.
Are you splitting the time with safety service or just?
Can we just meet at 5?
Yeah, we'll meet at 5, safety and service will be 5:30.
Perfect.
Okay, next is the Greater Johnstown Parks and Rec District. Michelle, do you have any updates?
Yeah, they met the last Thursday of the month. They didn't really, they're doing a bid for their liability insurance, talked a little bit about their participation in the fireworks committee, also talked a little bit about their comprehensive community event planner and website committee. That will be discussed, I think, more at the nonprofit organization meeting, which I believe is, they're getting together again in April. And community needs and survey review. They wanted to schedule maybe a working session to figure out their goals, priorities, and initiatives. And that is about it. It was a little over an hour.
Okay. Next on the agenda is director reports. Jack, do you have anything?
Yes, I'll be brief with this. The main points here is item number 1, the water plant update. Construction is really taking off now. We've got a little bit of better weather. We're doing a lot of underground work right now, tying in the new main lines from the well fields to the plant. We are having to do a lot of shift manipulation so they can work in time, because the plant can run, or tying the new 16-inch lines in and tying the wells into the new 16-inch line. So a lot of work's really going on there. I'm just going to give you an update. The clear well, the new plant was originally designed to have a clear well, an additional clear well, additional below-ground holding to use in case the plant was down or just during heavy flow situations. Due to costs, we eliminated that from the project, which it is a critical piece of the water plant. So I have asked the contractors while they're there to get me some numbers and the engineers to look at it to see what it would cost to put that back into the project, because it truly is a necessary piece. And so as soon as I get that together, I'm probably going to meet with manager Jeff, and we'll discuss that, and then he'll probably have a presentation to give the council on the necessities and why that should be added back in. So I'm just giving you a little pre-notice on that. We'll probably be ready to meet with Jeff first, and then with council probably sometime in June. Jumping on down, the EPA still has the design plans for the wastewater plant upgrade. So those plans are still 90%. We can't complete them until we get the EPA comments, and then we respond back. For the month of March, we had no leaks. I can't say that for April. We've been at it already in April. As I said earlier, item 5J2 is back in operation, but it's in a temporary mode. But after the plant gets a little further along and we'll start replacing those pumps, we do have to make a decision what we're going to do with that well on the screening and the casing, and what size pump we can get in there if we do line that pump. So more information to come on that. Good news, we had 2 positions open at the water plant. We have filled one of those positions with a very qualified, good individual, and he's paying dividends for us already. He's helped on these last 2 water breaks. So we still have 1 position out there that we're looking to fill, but we have got 1 filled. The last item I want to bring up here is I and Jeff have been meeting with EMH&T almost daily on different projects. As we know, EMH&T's primary contract is done, well, was done the end of March. And so we are in a transition period, handing these projects off, getting me brought up to speed on them, and working with Ferris, who has a contract through, Jeff, that was the 1st of June, their contract's up.
I believe so.
So we're transitioning to them, and then we will have to make a decision on who our engineer will be for the rest of the year, because we may have a second transition again. But Jeff and I have discussed it'd probably be good to work with multiple engineers based on their skill level at the different type of projects that we're doing. But, no,
I just briefly, I've found in the past that no one engineering firm is good at everything, and that it's to an advantage to have 2 or 3 firms that are familiar enough with the community that can be available to work on different projects depending on that company's strength. And so if you're good at building roads, you may not do water and wastewater. So rather than have a default firm, I think it would be to the city's advantage to have a couple of firms that are available to assist us as projects arise that aren't put out for bid or so forth. So that's what we're looking at now. I'll have more information and a formal recommendation to you at a later date.
so as I told you, I've been very busy, but a lot of that is being brought up to speed on all these different projects. I'm sure you're all aware of, but Johnstown has 6 or 7 different projects getting ready to start construction, or new fiber lines coming through, 2 different fiber companies and easement work, and it's just taking quite a bit to get caught up on those projects right now. With that being said, any questions for me, water, sewer, street related? Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have tabled legislation, Resolution 2026-26, resolution to approve a temporary employment agreement and to appoint interim city manager. First, we have to remove this from the table, so if anyone would like to make a motion to take this off the table.
I'll make a motion to take it off the table.
I'll second it.
Kyle Cook,
Yes.
Jeff Mark,
Yes.
Nicole Shook,
Yes.
Matthew Huggins,
Yes.
Donnie Bernard,
Yes.
Ryan Green,
Yes.
Mayor Hollis.
Yes. So, were you asking what this is
Yeah,
specifically?
yeah.
It's,
clarity.
just for clarity, yeah. So, originally, Mr. Sheridan was hired under Management Advisory Group, basically as a I don't know what,
You can use that.
consultant.
Yeah.
Upon legal advisement, it's better for him to be an employee of the city.
Right.
So we had to change that, that's why this got tabled, and now it's coming back. And he's going to be a employee of the city as an interim city manager while we continue the search.
Understood.
The temporary employment agreement was attached. I don't know if everyone has a copy of that, if you had time to review it, if anyone has any questions about that. That did go through all of legal, Yaz and Mr. Riepenhoff as well, reviewed that.
Couple questions on item number 2. Should we state the period that we're going to want him to stay? I know he works at will of council, but should we have like a 2-week period once, if he's not the city manager that we pick, that the new city manager, that we specify a date range that he agrees to, like as a handoff period? It's nowhere stated in there like how much notice we've got to give him if he's not the person or anything like that. I just want to be clear on that.
It doesn't have an exact date, but under number 2 there, it says employee shall serve as a temporary employee of the city intended to serve until the city's subsequent appointment of a city manager or
Correct.
further action by council.
Right.
I kind of
So we
agree.
kind of cover ourselves, but
We do, but
it's
I'd like
hard
to
to
set
leave,
it,
it's hard, I agree with you, it's hard to set a target date, though.
I would like to at least have 2 weeks of crossover.
If I may, he's an employee of the city, right? So he could give a 2-week resignation right now and be gone, or sit there and say, I'm done, see y'all later. I don't think there's anything legally that we can bound him by as a city employee. I would want Rippenhoff to weigh in on that piece, because it's not like we're hiring a contractor or a consultant where they're bound by the scope of what that says.
But what is, but the interim city contract, this contract here, isn't that kind of binding at that point?
I don't know. I understand what you're saying. I agree with.
I just want to keep the city in the best position
Yeah.
possible if we don't go with Mr. Sheridan. So. And then the other item I have, number 6, the rate is really $4,000 a week. It's $34.50 after the withholdings and taxes. I think that should be worded,
That was my question.
number 6. Because if I'm reading it, it's $34.50, subject to all applicable taxes and withholdings.
We can have our finance director shed some light on that.
That is the gross right there.
So the 3450 is the gross?
It's not the net?
It's,
No, the gross is at $86 and
Okay.
change.
I thought it was the other one.
In the agreement, it was 100, but it was reduced by the CRS that the city has to pay and the Medicare to come out to $86 and some change. So if you take the $86 and a quarter, I believe, times by 40, comes out to that.
Okay. So what was it wasn't originally 100?
It was originally 100, We reduced it by the PRS, that since he's an employee, the city has to match 14%
Mhm.
of PRS, plus 1.45 of Medicare. So that was,
So it's still 100, we're still putting out 100 an hour because of those two things, correct?
well, theoretically.
Yes.
we
Yes,
are,
yes,
but
okay.
Gross is 86.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have anything, comments or questions about this? What is the will of council on Resolution 2026-26?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2026-26 as written.
I'll second.
Matthew Huggins.
Yes.
Sonny Barnard.
Yes.
Brian Green.
Yes.
Claire Hollis.
Yes.
Kyle Cook.
Yes.
Jeff Clark.
Yes.
Nicole Schmidt.
Yes.
Okay, next we have Resolution 2026-27. Resolution authorizing the acting city manager to enter into a professional service agreement with Management Advisory Group. This is also the contract for the city manager search as well as consulting and advisory services. And it's just an updated contract. And this also went through legal as well, Yaz and Mr. Riepenhoff as well.
I do have a question, go back to the last one real quick. Does that mean that Dave Delaney's not the,
We have an acting and an interim. So even when previously with city manager, we still had a designated acting
Right.
city manager.
okay, so Dave's going to be the acting, or he's going to be the interim? Is that correct still?
Actually, I would like to know that.
Well, as a city employee now, do we need him to actually be the acting to fulfill the charter?
Well, I think we always
This
have
fulfills the
someone as
charter.
an acting.
Doing this fulfills
Yeah.
the charter.
Yeah.
So we don't technically
Need
Dave in that role,
Right.
but for all intents and purposes,
But you
I
still
think
have to
Dave is
have it
still the.
named.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as an interim, can he sign the contract? Is really the question.
You're looking at
We
7
can get clarification from Mr.
we're not
Riepenhoff, but I
attorneys.
believe
That's a good point, Donnie.
from Mr. Riepenhoff,
I can
yes,
add
he would
numbers.
be able to be a signer now
Yeah, I can.
because he's an employee of the city.
I can give you an educated guess, but it seems like this satisfies everything
Yeah.
in the charter. Either way, you still have the signatory power on any of the finances, so really it's kind of semantics, but we can get clarity from legal.
Teresa?
I think what you're referring to is there's a requirement that the city manager designate
Yes.
someone in case he should become
Incapacitated.
incapacitated or out of service. So I don't know that it's necessarily the acting, but it would become the acting if that happened, so,
Okay.
I mean, right now, it's Dave. And it will continue to be Dave, I'm sure, but I'll get clarification on time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So just to be clear with the public about Resolution 2026-27, is that this is basically like a finder's fee for the MAG associate, or the search firm for providing us with the interim manager.
It's to fulfill the contract that we had with them
Exactly,
before.
exactly. But just to be clear for everybody here, because, they're just being transparent, we're not double paying them. We're paying them a finder's fee or a search firm fee to find us a city manager, and then we are also paying them a finder's fee because that fulfills, correct? Is that correct?
It's two different ones.
Exactly. So I'm just trying to be clear for the public. I know, but I'm just trying to explain it to the public.
All of that. What is the will of council for Resolution 2026-27?
Make a motion to approve as written.
I'll second.
Brian Green.
Yes.
Claire Hollis.
Yes.
Kyle Cook.
Yes.
Jeff Clark.
Yes.
Nicole Schmidt.
Yes.
Matthew Huggins.
Yes.
Sonny Barnard.
Yes.
Next, we have Resolution 2026-28, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement to participate in the Ohio Department of Transportation road salt contracts awarded in 2026. Jack, would you like to elaborate on this?
Yes, every year, we get into a contract so we can bulk buy with Licking County and the other state agencies, so we can hopefully get a break on price. So last year, we used 515 tons of salt, and we actually could have used more, but salt was in a shortage last year. So what I'm doing here is, I've talked with Teresa, I'd like to order 650 ton of salt this year that would get our salt temple filled back up. And I think that'll give us a good supply for next year.
Okay.
Did our Middle Eastern salt make it in?
Yep, we
Did it?
made it in and we used it.
Oh, good.
Was it magic?
I'm glad.
Sandy looking.
I'm glad
Alright.
it made it in before everything happened, and I'm guessing this salt won't come from there.
And you have one comment on his salt, his budget for 25, we extended it over into 26 as we did, but it looks like we're not gonna have salt to purchase, so we'll probably end up closing that PO and we'll be coming back and reappropriating those funds for 26. Heads up.
Okay, what is the will of council for Resolution 2026-28?
I'll make a motion to pass Resolution 2026-28.
I'll second.
Colchester,
Yes.
Matthew Huggins,
Yes.
Tony Barnard,
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Karen Holland,
Yes.
Kyle Cook.
Yes.
Jeff Barnes.
Approved.
Next, we have ordinance 02-2026, an ordinance to amend Chapter 1187 of the city's codified ordinances. This is an introduction, and you are on cue. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to provide a brief overview for this ordinance that you have being introduced to you this evening. So as you'll recall, in early February, we basically, the council adopted a resolution initiating this change to Chapter 1187. This is all tied to the design guidelines update that was started at the end of 2024, if I remember correctly. So we worked with council at the end of last year and the design review board to come up with kind of the appropriate procedures for these. And so that is what you see now. This is the ordinance that will amend the codified ordinances. So basically, this is the language that allows the design review board to review the applications that they do. At the next meeting, there will also be a resolution that contains the actual design guidelines document itself. My understanding is the intent is to, if you choose to adopt those documents, there will be, like always, a 31-day delay in the effective date of the ordinance. My recommendation is go ahead and adopt the resolution for the new design guidelines that night, and probably I would recommend putting a delayed effective date on that, basically, so that the design guidelines and the accompanying ordinance all are effective at the same time.
Same time?
Yeah. Other than that, I wasn't going to go back through all this. I know we've discussed it several times at this point, but if you do have any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them.
Thank you, Trevor.
We do not need to take any action on this tonight. It's just an introduction, correct?
It is the advertised public hearing, so you want to open it up.
Okay. Open for public comment. Does any member of the public have any comment or questions regarding this? Hearing none.
But you're correct. You will not.
We won't take a vote on any of this tonight, so we can move on. Next, we have introduction of legislation, ordinance 03-2026, an ordinance authorizing the city manager in the city of Johnstown, Ohio, to accept the public dedication of the right-of-way to the city from the Johnstown Land Company. Mr. Rogenkamp, are you here as Jamie?
Good evening. I'm Dick Rogenkamp with New Albany Company, the Johnstown Land Company, 8000 Walton Parkway. And yes, I'm Jamie tonight. So what you have before you is two right-of-way deeds. This goes back to some of when Mink Street was widened, and there was an extensive, complicated agreement between Johnstown and the city of New Albany that basically put the city in charge of, or responsible, of New Albany, I should say, responsible for the maintenance of Mink Road. the same time, we were going through a bunch of different annexations and zoning, so this is kind of playing catch-up because we could not do this earlier. Both of the right-of-way segments are east of Clover Valley and west of Mink Road on the north side of Green Chapel. Be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone on council have questions for Ms. Rosenkamp?
Does our staff have anything to add to this? Seems pretty straightforward, but
It's really just housekeeping kind of in it,
Yeah.
essentially, yeah.
Hopefully it'll be the last one.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, what is the will of council for ordinance 03-2026?
This is a first reading, isn't
Sorry,
it?
yeah.
It's-
Yep.
It's only first reading because it's an ordinance, so you'll have a public hearing and vote next meeting.
Okay,
I
so-
will add that they have asked for emergency passage next time. That would just waive
Waive
the
the-
30-day effective because they're closing at the end of the month.
Okay.
Yeah, this also, just what Teresa's referring to is, you'll also see, or I guess Planning Commission will see a lot split for Licking Rural Electric for a new substation site. And that's what's closing the end of the month. So she's correct. We would like to get this as an emergency when it comes before you.
Okay,
All right?
Thank you.
thank you so much. Okay, moving on to other business. Ms. Shook, do you have anything?
Yeah, I have a few things. I wanted to ask about the temporary land use that's across from Wits. I see that they're setting up camp again, and I just want to know if they've been in contact with, I've been in contact with you about our temporary use code, and they're going to, I would like to make a suggestion this time. The last time we did this, we did not make the fence yes, altogether, because it was said that there was, that hill behind it was enough coverage that they didn't need to. I highly suggest that we make a complete circle of fencing so that it doesn't fall down every 5 minutes like it did last time and look absolutely horrible. So if we could, that's my suggestion, to make sure that we do that fencing all the way around. So it's joined and stays up.
Yep.
Thank you. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you?
I reached out to Teresa last week on the same project, and is there a way that we could get that through zoning quickly, or at least work on something with the fence to where it's driven temporarily into the ground? Because, I mean, with the wind that we have around here, it's, how they did it last time wasn't gonna work.
No, it's not. It
Yeah.
needs to be staked or something.
Yeah, it needs to
They put sandbags down and it was
They
like,
can have temporary chain link that's driven into the ground.
I mean, it just needs to be very sturdy and stayed up. I mean, last time it was a disaster.
Yep.
Disaster. And it's not the same group, I don't think. I think
Definitely
it's
was
different
a-
group. But
definitely a
it
learning
was, it was very non-appealing to see that.
Another option would be to put some penalty if the fencing's down for a period of time and not replaced.
Trevor, you want to
Just
say
to
something?
add in really quickly,
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of the issues last time, but yeah, I believe I'd have to go back and review the temporary use permit code. I do believe it does specify that everything on this site should be temporary in nature. However, if you have a specific example like this, meaning like it's really not feasible to put temporary fencing out, I think you could put a condition. I want to look in the code, make sure
Okay.
it doesn't preclude you from doing that. But I don't see why you couldn't put a condition that the fencing has to be like staked
Yeah.
into the ground and then removed at the end of it, just like any other temporary.
Yeah, it was
I
awful
think we
last
need
time.
to do that because the group last time, I mean, it was a learning experience for us. That's our
Yeah.
first laydown site that we've worked with.
Mm-hmm.
But they were diligent at putting it back up every day and it was down overnight.
Yeah.
So I mean, I will say even a team that wants it to be up with the winds that we have here probably isn't gonna stay up.
I would expect that site will get utilized again in the future for
It
that
will.
same purpose.
And if that's something that you foresee is going to happen over time, like let's say the next 5 or 10 years, we could always adjust the code to change it from a temporary use to a permanent use, and then you could have actually more stringent criteria of like solid opaque fencing that's permanent, you could have landscaping requirements. So I'm not saying it needs to be done, but if this is going to be a repeat request for the same temporary use on the same site over and over, it might be worthwhile just changing the code to accommodate that, and at the same time, adding some additional requirements with that to help with screening and buffering and those sorts of things. So just something to think about.
We can look at that in other business.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good suggestion, I agree.
Thanks, Trevor.
So another one was Jack, I wasn't here last meeting, but I think Jack and Rusty together for getting that backhoe removed from Leafy Dell, because it was such a, it was actually a deterrent for getting out there safely. So thank you so much for getting that done. I appreciate it, both of you. Tag teamed on that, so thank you. Also, got a question about, will we be adding the city manager report to the agenda in the future? I know that Sean's used to be, and I don't know, just because now he's got voted in, yay. So, interim manager for, added that to the report by any chance?
Yeah, I think monthly's good.
Okay.
I know Jeff's been sending us weekly emails, which is great.
I will do a version that can go to you for the public.
Great, thank you. And then, this one I gotta be really careful about, but, the interim manager and council priorities for the next 90 days, so they align about top priorities, maybe top 5, about like what we feel as a top 5, what you feel after doing your research as a top 5. I don't know if we can do that in a working session, or if we can do, if that needs to be an executive session because of the sensitive nature or perhaps job performance. So I'm not real sure. I want to be real careful about that. So, but I think it's important that we talk about those 90 days, the next 90 days, and what council's priorities may be, top 5. And Jeff, the research that you have done, what your top 5 might be,
I
so.
think that would be great. The more clear direction
Yep.
that you can provide me, the better.
So I'm just putting that out there. I don't know how we want to do that or legally can do that. Okay, I'm done. Thanks.
Matt, did you have anything?
No, ma'am.
Yep.
No, thank you.
Donnie?
Nope.
Paul?
Yeah, I spoke to you a little bit about it, Jeff, but I wanted to talk about council's, if everybody thought it would be a good idea to maybe do an NCA in light manufacturing. So our current light manufacturing district, on anything that comes in that's new, putting together something like an NCA.
Would
And
it
if
fall
it-
under the same one?
Mhm.
Okay,
No,
so-
let's do a separate one.
No, I mean, but for that particular area,
Yes.
for light manufacturing, but
And I'm not
they
even,
fall
I'm
under the
not even
same
saying
NCA?
we don't need to just limit it to that, but if we, I wanted to see if are we open?
No, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I do
but don't
too.
know
I
if
really
you
do
can-
too, Kyle.
I don't know if you can make the current businesses join it.
That's why I said
can't.
new business.
New business
New
coming
business.
in.
Yeah, I like,
I do, I like that.
Okay.
But there's got to be a way, if a current business were to expand a
Well, they'd fall
project,
out of that grandfather
that they
clause.
would fall
Like
out of
anything
the
that would be in
grandfather
zoning,
clause.
Yeah,
I
that's
would
true.
assume.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to update
Typically,
their
you
property
could do
or
that.
anything along those lines, they would have to come out of that and join the NCA.
We can also do some incentivizing to get them to join.
Oh, yeah, that too, that too.
What's the process look like that with that? Should we take that to,
I would suggest Yaz would be the best law director to advise on the steps to do that, the pros and cons. I think it makes sense to me, but I've not done one in that way, so I can't speak with any experience on that.
so is council okay with having Jeff look into that with Yaz?
That'd be great.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Ryan?
Yeah, so I have, we started the conversation earlier. This is one conversation we started earlier. So the choosing of the engineer. I agree with the idea of having multiple engineers. I know that we've had engineers apply to the RFQ that we sent out, so just wanted to be open with the process and what all of our expectations are with that. I don't know how many submissions we had exactly.
7 or 8, I believe.
7 or 8. So would we choose one out of that 7 or 8 to be of record?
I would suggest no.
No.
I would suggest, it depends on the
higher.
project. I would, Beck and I talked, I think we can agree on 2 or 3 that
No,
we
it's just-
expect to be the
they're all
default.
just
It's
engineering.
going to be based on what the project is.
So we'll have 2 or 3 defaults
Correct.
for specific
Correct.
areas,
Depends
okay.
on what area it is.
Okay. And then will we, as far as the interview process, is council going to interview, or are we gonna have staff handle that, or how's everybody, we've
Last
done
time
it
we did
both.
it- last time
We've
we
done
did
it
it.
both ways. We've had So last time we had a broad search, council interviewed everybody presented in an open meeting, but we have brought engineers on in the past. OHM, I think, is with us now, and that was done just through the manager hiring.
Can we have the manager narrow it down to 2 or 3 and
I would suggest that you allow the manager to make the recommendations and you either accept them or not.
Okay.
If you want to meet with the 2 or 3 to get to know them, that would make sense.
Yeah.
I guess clearly if I select if Jack and I select a firm, and at some point you're not comfortable working with them, all you'd have to do is let me know and we'd find an alternative.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to get us all on
I'm
the,
not going to tell you what our experience has been working with those firms for years.
yeah, I just wanted to get us on the same page as far as, because we started down a road, but we're in a different world now. So.
Yes, does that make sense?
Yep. And then the other conversation we started earlier in safety and service was our DORA discussion. So safety and service generally seem to be semi in favor of having the DORA discussion in a broader scope. So we wanted to bring it to council to see how council felt about it. I mean, obviously, we're not going to discuss the whole thing tonight. Wouldn't be fair to us or the public out there watching to dissect into a rabbit hole in another hour-long plus meeting, but we need to figure out where we're headed on this. It's a project we've kicked around now the last few years. If we want to do something with it, to be able to have events this year, we have a tight timeline on that because it will have to come through our process, go through the ordinance process, go to the state, be approved, and come back. So there's quite a few hoops to jump through before we could enact it. So just wanted to start that discussion amongst council and see what the flavor is.
I'm supportive of developing a DORA.
I'm supportive on an event basis.
I also support looking into it. I mean, we said that earlier.
You got your 4. So I think, is everybody in favor of this, or is there people that aren't in favor, or are there, like Nicole said, there's specific, she's in favor, but there's specific things?
I'm in support of a limited,
Yeah, I'm
at least
in-
for
yeah.
the time, for the first year or 2 to see how
I
it
do.
works before you roll it out
Event basis,
on a daily.
I think that would be, something like that would, like we talked about, would be fine, yeah.
For a law enforcement perspective, I think that would be the best.
the event basis would be the best.
That would be my recommendation. We started as a vet process.
I think if you talk to the
See how that
businesses on
goes.
Main Street, they would disagree.
See how that goes, and then,
The businesses that are going to, I think they would disagree having it based on event basis.
That is something that we need to look into too, and I'm sure you've talked to them, is, are all businesses going to participate too? That can, that have alcohol involved, I wouldn't
Maybe
think
we-
there would, any would be any pushback.
Maybe we bring in we do this at a workshop where the public can come in and make comments, invite the business, and the businesses uptown that do have alcohol and that don't have alcohol, what ones would allow them to come into their shop with alcohol that no longer, like, I don't know if the ice cream place is going to want people coming in with alcohol. I don't
Right.
know. I'm
They
not
can-
speaking
yeah,
for them,
and
but
they can
Or
limit
if they're,
that, yeah.
or if they're allowed under this.
that's what I'm saying. I don't
Yeah.
know. We don't know. I don't know that part of it, but I think being able
I
to.
know people do sip and shop
Yeah,
in
we
other
can-
cities
something,
and stuff
you know,
like that. So
something like that,
obviously,
but-
they must be allowed in some capacity.
In most cities,
But
it's up to the business owner
Yeah, the business owner, yep.
specific.
Before we,
I think it does complement an event,
does.
obviously, but it also, I mean, the original, basis for DORA being formed was to drive foot traffic during the time of COVID and things like that to help revitalize
Yeah.
business districts.
The-
So I think that is part
The
of it.
one thing we do have to look at, and I think this will severely harm DGI. Because I know they get a lot of their revenue from alcohol, I believe.
I think there's opportunity here that we can make sure that they're made whole. 'Cause I mean,
That's just long, I just don't want to hurt an
going to,
organization.
right, going to the meetings and things and discussing this with them, I think they're.
I don't know the
in
revenue, so I don't know how it
support,
works, but I thought they said they get a big part, but they may not.
Yeah, well,
I think
it
that's
ebbs
what
and
the
flows.
discussion is.
Yeah, it definitely ebbs
Right.
and flows, but in that vein of discussion, I don't know if they're limited, they could buy the cups and do the Dora as well.
There are
Instead of handing out a
mechanisms
can,
where-
I'm sure they could just
As
dump
long
it
as-
into that cup.
They get a
There are
temporary.
mechanisms where they can have their own event and have permits and things that they do. There are also mechanisms where they can piggyback off of a bar, I'm sure, and have a joint event.
Just to try to get us back online, that we
Right.
weren't trying to
We need
discuss
to- yeah,
details
we need to-
tonight, that was in the future, but it sounds like generally speaking, most of council was willing to sit down and develop some kind of door that we could all be supportive of.
So the
That's what
next
we're looking
step
for.
here, and I mean, this is something that we've discussed for the last few years. I mean, previous to all of us being on council, this idea was discussed. So I think it's been vetted pretty well. We've brought it in public previously. I think we can obviously bring it in public. They're all gonna be done in open meetings. I've got this about 3/4 of the way written out. This is a permit process. So I think the question is, where do we go from here? It was in a committee earlier tonight. The
I thought we
committee-
discussed if council was good with it, it would go back to committee.
Go back to
Committee would
committee.
work on
It
it.
can go back to committee if everybody's good with that. It can be done in a work session. It can be done a few different ways, but ultimately, if we're gonna enjoy the benefits of this year, or even early next spring, we need to get moving on it just because of the general nature of the permit itself with the state.
I would be curious to see the financial implications to the downtown businesses, what their tax revenue looked like this year, like the years before versus the years after, to see how much of an impact it does make on the downtown businesses. Because if we do a door and it's successful, the businesses, the city should reap
Yes.
some tax profit from it. So I'd be curious to see what that benefit's like.
Without the businesses there's no Dora. There is no, so it takes,
I think ultimately, you're driving foot traffic to businesses.
Yeah, and if-
Hopefully, if we open this up, I mean, at least me as one vote, I'd be favored to doing this on off days that aren't typically popular because you're giving them an incentive to go down there. But regardless, if you drive foot traffic, you're driving revenue, you're driving tax profit. How much? We won't know. And I had asked other cities in my research, they weren't always readily available to have that specific metric.
Will their businesses be open? So like, if you want to drive traffic with the Dora, is it just for the businesses that have alcohol? Or is it for businesses who may close on Monday because there isn't enough foot traffic, may open their doors on Monday?
Yeah, you could see a
To
benefit
drive
from
that,
that.
so, I mean, it kind of has to be a whole, the business is going to want to be open, and we're going to do the Dora. So, I
Right.
mean, it's not like we're going to do the Dora and then nobody opens their doors, except for the people selling the alcohol. I mean, that's how you drive, that's in my opinion, how you drive traffic. So, the businesses have to be open to drive it.
And that would make sense then to have it open on days that aren't just events.
If that's what
But
we
if that's
decide,
what we wanna
if that's
do.
what the majority
But
decides.
I think we have direction though, so we can take it from there.
All right, we'll take it back to Safety and Service Committee. Other than that, that was all I had for other business.
anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I'll third.
Aye.
Don't need that.